Andres Addison, Vice Chair of GRTC Board, Richmond City Council.
Bonnie Ashley, General Counsel.
I'm Dan Schmidt, Henrico County.
Lincoln Saunders, City of Richmond.
Ellen Robertson, City of Richmond.
Jim Engel, Chesterfield County.
Barb Smith, Chesterfield.
Todd Garrett, Henrico County.
Cheryl Adams, GRTC. Start back here.
All bus operator. Second Marks, GRTC.
Monica Carter, GRTC. Connie Thompson, Director of Procurement, GRTC. Bond Fitzgerald, RideFinders.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Intro.
Oh, I'm having communication specialist. And last but not yet,
Mark Renee, GRTC.
Ashton Eaton, GRTC. Sales.
John Oliver, Newport.
Joe Gill, GRTC.
Anthony Carter, GRTC.
Tony Bird, Director of Maintenance, GRTC.
Adrian,
What? Speak up.
Richard Payne, RP Rapture.
Dexter Burke, GRTC.
Janice Swift, GRTC.
Everybody. Well, we'll now move on to the public comments.
Good morning, everybody, and huge shout out to the crossing guards and the elementary school on SEMS. They do an excellent job. No kids. The public notice meeting agenda and agenda attachments for this October 24th, 2023 scheduled meeting of the boards of GRTC, RideFinders, and the Old Dominion Transit Management Company were posted on October 18th, 2023 at ridegrtc.com. Per the meeting notice, all written comments were received by me prior to 5 p.m. on the day before a meeting and were provided to all members of the board last night. They will be included in the minutes of the meeting. Also, per the meeting notice, this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. Mr. Chair, for this meeting, I received and referred 2 public comments in writing that will be included in the record. Thank you all and good morning.
Is there anybody here in person that would like to have public comment? Is there anyone present in the room today that would like to have public comment? Okay. Seeing none, so we now proceed to the approval of the minutes. Second. A preemptive second to a.
She moved and he.
I thought Bonnie nominated him.
We had a motion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Excellent. What's not Tyrone?
Yeah, right.
You gave public comments.
Let's jump to the staff reports. Yeah, we'll go to the staff reports next. We're jumping around this agenda. Thanks for dealing with us this morning. We'll start with the safety report.
Morning, members of the board. My name is Anthony Carter. I'm going over the safety report for the month of September. If you look at it, you can see that the numbers are kind of high for this month. We'd like to see them a little bit lower. What we're experiencing is basically our, I guess you say, our fruits of harvest. We had a lot of new operators start, and we're seeing the results from that. If you look at the type of accidents, we're seeing fixed objects. That's one big thing that we're trying to cut down on, and we know that that's from just unexperienced operators. What we're doing is getting more development out in the field with our training department, trying to do more development tools so far as making them understand the situational awareness, make sure that they're setting up their proper turns and everything, and making sure that they're more familiar with their locations. Other than that, I mean, that, like I said, that's really the main thing that we're seeing. We're working on that, trying to get those numbers down. But overall, we're seeing a lot of new operators out there. They seem to be enjoying everything, and we're just working to keep the numbers down. Any questions? Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Everyone, members of the board. Looking at the board packet for the operations performance, starting on page 26, you see a slight improvement with a number of scheduled trips, percentage of scheduled trips that operated. That's due primarily to the increase in the number of operators. And I'll go over the staffing now. We finished the month with 277 full-time, 27 part-time operators, full-time equivalent of 290.5, 75 trainees that were in training during that period. We actually, for the year, as of September the 30th, had hired 161 operators. That is not including an additional 6 that started last week. We are currently at 290 full-time operators that are in service, 27 part-timers, full-time equivalent of 303.5. So we crossed the 300 threshold for full-time operators, which we haven't had that number since about July of 2020. So I really recommend the staff, HR, marketing, executive staff, the union, for all working together to get us to this point here. We've had 20, we'll finish this month of October, graduating 24 operators. So all those operators that came on board early summer and midsummer, we're now seeing the fruits of that labor. So we definitely will cross 300 operators, full-time operators by next month. I should drop the mic and leave on that point. Question?
Thank you. Good work.
Morning, members of the board. I'm here with the maintenance report is found on page 30 of the board packet. In addition to what's in the board packet, short 1 tech and 1 general properties. That's it. Other than that, we're fully staffed. Unless you have any question, that ends the maintenance report.
Questions?
No
Excellent.
questions, man. You look good, though. Something's missing up there.
Thank you.
Something missing, yeah.
Looks good.
Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board.
Come on.
My name is Patricia Robinson, I'm the planning manager for the September 2021 director report, page 31 of the report packet. So starting off the month, we are about 1.5% less than the previous month. This is likely due because August had 23 weekdays, September had 20 weekdays of service, so there are 3 weekdays less in the year. Did I catch something? Sorry. So the total fixed route ridership for September is 664,973. When we look at our year-over-year ridership, it's up almost 6% from last year and 6.3% from 2020. And our fiscal year to date, the total fixed route is 6.6% increase from this time last year. Our van pools continuing to build back up. Ridership is increasing by 11% year over year. And for those months, for that, we're going as a August to August comparison. Are there any questions on the monthly ridership report? If not, I'll jump into the productivity quarterly report, which is on page 34 of the packet. So quarter 1 was reviewing July, August, and September of 2023 compared to fiscal year 23 quarter 1 last year. So starting off with our BRT, which is our bus rapid transit line, there is a slight increase in service miles, which is due to the increased number of trips. And with the increase of trips, we're seeing a decrease in the average max load during times. Switching over to the arterials, which travel more than 50% on major corridors. We do see the largest kind of spike percent change in the ones. This is because they were truncated in January of 2023, so we're not really looking at apples year over year. Switch that model to end of lining at the downtown transfer station and switching to the one being that northern portion of the routing. 2A is highlighted here as falling just under the watch threshold. There were slight service adjustments in May of 2023. Sorry, on arterial. The service adjustments were for the twos were to switch to servicing the downtown location in both directions all day instead of just the previous routing. And then next up, we have our community radio routes, which are our neighborhoods. We have the 76 and the 77 in the watch category with fairly low passengers per trip, causing their total cost per passenger to be higher than some of our other community radials. The 77's lack of ridership could also be the time of year U of R being out for the summer. We do see a steady spike in ridership from July to August, and then we saw that same spike in ridership again August to September. The 76, we do see a lot of fluctuation in ridership throughout the year. This year compared to last year, we did kind of adjust the run times on that. It went from 60 minutes, we're back to 45 minutes of service, so we are seeing fluctuation that we continue to monitor. Next up is our circulators. So this is the routes that are servicing the outlying sections of our network. Again, when we look at these numbers, we have our 4A and 4B, which we're not really seeing an apples to apples comparison since during this fiscal year, we absorbed the Route 13 into those two routes. And then comparing from last year. The Route 88, which services Philip Morris with limited service, continues to be a candidate for microtransit, and we can continue to evaluate the low amount of passengers per trip that we're seeing there. And then the Route 93, we're launching into microtransit this month, so that's exciting. And then coming up in our January 23 service is when we would stop doing the fixed route, so there have a little bit of overlap for user awareness and comfortability with the service. Next up, we go into our express routes. We do see a decline in ridership year over year, which increases that high cost passenger. Route 95 being the highest cost, and that's just due to the nature of that route. It is the longest route that is our Pierce for Surgeon route, and that is the one that we do see the highest. The highest cost per passenger. And then if we switch over to the next slide, which is our on-time performance, are up a little bit from this time last year. So we were at 68.1% instead of 67.5%, so about 1 percentage point difference. And then the next slide has the breakdown between on-time, early, and late for weekday and weekend. So compared to last fiscal year, this quarter, we do see a slight increase in on-time performance for a weekday. We do see a decrease in early trips, which is always something that we try to mitigate those earliest. Weekend on-time performance is better across the board. We're seeing more on-time, less early, and less running late. And I'll take any questions on the productivity.
Go back to the express. You know what's happening on the Gaskins, if that's continuing to drop off? What's happening on the Gaskins route? Why it's continuing to drop off so much?
It's just kind of the trend we've seen, that just the change in work patterns, the change in commute patterns. Are continuing to monitor the max loads to make sure that that's not an impact. And then my January service changes as well. So the 29 for this upcoming booking January is going to have some additional trips added on where the max load is getting a little bit high. I don't think that was a deterrent in ridership. It wasn't quite that high, but to make riders more comfortable, we will be adding a couple more trips. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I will be reporting the rider comments for the month of September. For September, we had a total of 203 complaints that came in. And as far as any trends or patterns that we were seeing, we noted in the passed up passenger, there was a slight increase as well as the early schedules. And then we had a bit of a significant actually decrease in the route operator complaints as well as the late schedules. You'll also note that the report looks a little different this go around based on the feedback from the last board meeting. We added in more graphics. So for each of the categories that we captured, there are charts to kind of give a comparison. I went back to July, July, August, September to give a month-over-month comparison as to how we're doing in those categories. I was not able to do that with the miscellaneous category because that covers so many different categories. So that one wasn't as easy to put together as the others were because of the vastness of what falls under the miscellaneous category. And lastly, we had 6 commendations for the month of September. There were a couple for operators, a couple for CSRs, and then we had a couple for the DTS. Customers were really excited to see the opening of the DTS. We also had customer service representatives go down to the DTS in person, face-to-face customer service, so we can kind of get that experience from the customer's point of view to see how the bays looked, how they felt, the benches, the amenities, as well as the east sides, how they operate. And this concludes my report. Did you have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. The finance package begins on 55. We speak off of slide 56 right here, the highlight slide. So this is for the 2 months ended August 31st, 2023, 2 data points in a fiscal year. Currently, we have revenues that are unfavorable to budget, about $753,000. And this is driven in the federal funds revenue line, about a little under $600,000 due to lower than anticipated PM Flex reimbursement and unfavorable local funds of about $89,000. And the local fund shortfall is, as you recall, you would do the budgetary assumption that the trip match contribution grant was going to be funded from the GRTC fund balance. So that's generating about $280,000 through the 2 months. We're not moving money out. Obviously, there's the budgetary column, but with no actual, so that contributes to it. And then it's offset by favorable directly generated funds, about $107,000, and that's due to favorable federal interest rates. And this is positive thing about the high interest rates is that we're returning more on our investments. So on the operating expense side, lower than budget by about $970,000. And there's a couple items in here just to talk about. Some of them I believe are temporary. It's just a function of some of the good news that Tim Barham was sharing. So this is through 2 months, and Tim was updating you with numbers a little bit later. But so what we have here is we have a favorable labor variance of $241,000, which is basically being driven by below budget headcount in the admin section, and it's being offset by a little unfavorable labor in operations and maintenance. And this is driven by as Tim was reporting, we're up to 290 full-time operators plus the part-times. So what we have in here is we have about 83 temporary, trainees at this point in August. So the number, if you really look at the budget, had 300 FTEs for operators. So we're currently above that because we have a class, not all of them are successful through, and we're also anticipating turnover in our current people retiring. So this is kind of the art and the science of it here. So no concerns at this point, but it's driving a little unfavorable variance right now. We used ARPA federal funds for some of the overage, just to put perspective on it. Salaries for trainees, FICA and Medicare taxes in the 2 months, July and August, are about $460,000. So it's we're working within the means of the budget here, but obviously we're playing the long game. The goal is to get the operators here that are qualified, trained, so that we can expand the frequency of our service as well as expand our service. A lot of good things coming down, but we need manpower. So that's just a little ripple here right now. In addition, we also have favorable services just due to timing of some of the consulting projects in planning. And then we're a little slightly unfavorable on purchase transportation. So next is, it looks like the demand on the Care and Care Plus is a little bit higher than we anticipated when we put the budget together. That's about $81,000 through first 2 months. And we have a slight unfavorable utilities right now, about $51,000, but Tony Bird and the staff and my staff are investigating it. It looks like we have a water meter that isn't appropriately. We had a far spike in consumption. So we've met with folks at Richmond and we're going to chase that one down. All in all, the through 2 months, the deficit's $127,000. But the benchmark to use is that the self-funding for the TRIP grant matching portion is $280,000 deficit. So we're ahead of where we are expected to be. Still have a strong cash position of about $10 million in the balance sheet. Only about 5.9 million of that was in the operating cash account at the end of August. Some of the growth that we saw in the balance sheet is, as you can see, a little in the report. Let's go there really quick. You can see we've increased our net assets by about a little under $3 million, but it's being generated primarily in the accounts receivable section of it up here. So that we've got about a $4.3 million increase in receivables from so we convert that. Some of that is operating contributions that are outstanding, as well as reimbursements for the cutaway buses that we received this year. So cash, as we can see from the cash flow, we get a little tighter at the end of September, down to around $2 million of cash flow, but we had about $4 million plus in receivables outstanding that we're slating to collect some of them in October and into November. So the cash position goes back up in October, but just managing it, as well as with comment before about funding the TRIP grant out of our reserve. Obviously, that's cash that's not coming in, so we're kind of leveraging our cash balance on that as well. Last slide here that I want to show is it's through the end of September, a little bit of the eye chart. This is the CBTA quarterly funding report. This is the details of it. As you can see, still have strong cash receipts during the quarter, and some nice interest income between the LGIP and the sweep accounts. Had minimal expense outflows on the microtransit implementation plan, and then we also took the first quarter draw to fund our operations. So at the end of the quarter, glasses. I got one of my glasses. We ended the quarter with about $38.5 million in bank accounts and investments. So we'll condense this report, compress the detail, and we'll file this with CBTA by the deadline. So that kind of concludes the report on the August 2023 financial. I have 2 other topics to cover after that.
Chair, I got one quick question. Yeah, and I had a question for Tim, and I was waiting for the appropriate time, but you brought it up. So the full-time equivalent number, when does that become a thing? When they graduate class, they get added to the full-time equivalent number? So anybody in training, anybody on that chart that was on here read when they graduated, that's when they become a full-time equivalent, right? So when you say we're carrying 83 folks, that's folks that have not graduated training of some sort yet. And then they become a full-time equivalent.
On this slide here, you can see that I put the annotation. This reflects actual heads, not FTE. So you can see that as a the combination, we had about 384 folks. That's a combination of part-times, which part-times is 27 part-times at that point. So you back off between, and that's also including admin staff. So we are, obviously, this is, yeah, we know the graduation rate's not 100%. So if we try to trim the classes down, you would never get. So this is kind of a one-time anomaly, and we'll get back down to it. So
6% number is based on that full number, including trainees.
that's just counting the full-time as one head and so forth. So this, it's easier for me to track the number of heads that are right around.
Yep,
this.
gotcha. Thank you.
Second item I want to do is moving around the room in introductions. Want to just call out, he didn't announce his title, but Mark Renee is over here. He's our new Director of Finance. He joined us at the beginning of October. We're glad to have him. He's part of our rebuilding and supplementing the accounting and finance team. He has a diverse background, and we expect good things from him in supporting the organization. The second item then is we have a scheduled finance committee meeting on November 9th. And at that finance committee, we're going to have the required auditor communications. So Leslie Roberts and Brown Edwards will be remote via Zoom. She cannot be here in person, but she'll have other staff here. So where we are in the audit process, the BD pension plan has been signed off, and that's been done for about a month or so. RideFinders has been updated. This past Friday on the 20th, we signed the management representation letter. So the GRTC financial audit is done. No issues. It's unmodified opinion. No any instruction. Federal single audit is good, unmodified. No exceptions. The last thing we're doing is we're completing our agreed upon procedures for the NTA. So that should be wrapping up, and we'll be hopefully by the end of this week, well in advance of the October 31st deadline. So that's so anyone that's interested in going through, Leslie will go through a rather detailed review of the financial statements. So anyone on the members of the board or the audience want to submit that 9th at 3 o'clock. With that, I will conclude finance briefing.
Thank you. All right, Barb Smith, Development Subcommittee report.
Sure. Yeah. The Development Committee met before the last board meeting. And the main topic was the update on the North-South BRT recommended corridor. Phase 2, so that will allow North-South BRT to move to phase 2 study, which will involve developing more detail regarding operation and capital improvements for the recommended corridor. We also discussed the rollout of the first phase of microtransit service in the region and upcoming grant opportunities. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we need to go back to the top. Thank you, Andreas, and you guys moving forward. Traffic got me this morning. We go up to number 2, I think, GRTC Board of Directors Annual Shareholder Meeting Report. We had a robust conversation and discussion in that 4-minute meeting. I think it was about. We pretty much just elected the Board of Directors, and everybody at the table pretty much. I mean, it's the same group that we've had. And Barb, nomination and election of officers. I think you had a conversation at that last board meeting, I think.
That's right. Yeah, so serving as this year's nominating committee are Ellen Robertson, Todd Ure, and myself. And we met following the October 12th board meeting and agreed that our current board officers should resume their roles for the upcoming year. So the nominations are Tyrone Nelson as chair, Andreas Addison as vice chair, and Barb Smith as treasurer secretary.
All right, so we need to vote on that. Do we need to vote? That was just a report. The other piece was a report. So we just need to vote on this piece.
Correct.
So as a motion, right?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so a motion been made by Barb, second by Dan and Jim.
Get the motion, I think, Dan second.
Okay, but I think the report was the motion.
Okay, well then Dan second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. And I would assume that unless somebody has a problem, we'll keep the same committee chairs.
All right, so, bam, that business is done. Consent agenda, corporate banking resolutions, diesel fuel, clever devices, smart yard system, solar panel hardware, bus stop shelters. I think everyone is here that can answer questions. Anyone have any questions about anything on the consent agenda? All right, hearing no questions, can we get a motion to accept?
So moved.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, CEO report.
Ms. Thompson.
Oh, okay.
I know you did. He was.
50 locations.
That's awesome.
$500,000.
750 or something.
Can be found on pages 17 through 19 of the board packet. There were 3 procurements approved by the board chair between board meetings. The first purchase in the amount of $95,446. So if you look at your report, there is an error. The correct amount is $95,446. This was awarded to STB Incorporated for site plans for improvements at 35 of our bus stops. The next award was to TSI Video for surveillance cameras for paratransit vehicles in the amount of $97,000. And lastly, software maintenance was purchased in the amount of $73,320 for the Ring Central phone system. There are 9 new projects added to the report this month. They are microtransit services, facility lawn care services, replacement of the rooftop units and a new building automation system, equipment storage shed, bus stop sign manufacturing, more engineering services for bus stop improvements, new signage for GRTC headquarters, facility pavement improvements, and support vehicles. Are there any questions regarding the purchases or any of the new projects on the report?
And what did you say about STV? It's listed at 726. You said what's the new amount?
Yes, it's that the amount that of the PO is incorrect. The PO was actually for $95,446.
Yeah, so we wouldn't have been able to approve it.
You would not have been.
Yeah, right, okay. All right, any questions? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Now, back to you.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So, I have a little bit of good news this morning. Operator Marlon Buck is with us this morning. Marlon was one of our very first employee of the month for the when we started in August. On Saturday, October 14th, Marlon was operating the Route 7 headed towards the airport. He noticed that there was a passenger on his bus with a rifle. Because of his quick action in calling the authorities, when the bus got to the airport, that person got off the bus and actually entered the airport, but was apprehended immediately. So we want to recognize him, but also the Richmond International Airport wants to recognize him. They sent a card that says countless communities across the United States are grappling with rising gun violence and the devastation that follows. Because of the actions taken by your employee, Mr. Marlon Buck, on Saturday, October 14th, Richmond is not numbered among those communities. A safety culture starts at the top, so thank you for your commitment to safety. Additionally, please pass along this token of our sincere thank you for Mr. Buck's commitment to helping us safely move people, business, and commerce to advance the Richmond region. So, Mr. Buck, would you come forward, please? On behalf of GRTC, we want to thank you so much for your dedication to safety and to GRTC and our passengers in our region. Thank you. Thank you. And my second announcement today is a little bittersweet. It's sweet for her, bitter for us, but Ms. Vaughn Tisdale has announced that she will be retiring after 26 years here with us at GRTC. Vaughn started in 1997 at RideFinders. She had a little bit of a stint here with our care of specialized transportation in 2006. And then she went back to RideFinders in 2008, where she is going to be leaving us. So we have engraved vase that we want to present to Vaughn. We will also be presenting you with your Go Pass as well. That's been ordered. But we will miss Vaughn and her beautiful smile and all of her hard work and dedication.
I'll just say, I thank everybody for the opportunity that I've had, the great people I've met, the opportunities to grow, but also the opportunity to contribute something to this region. I feel I've left a good legacy, and I expect things to be better. So I thank everybody so much for trusting me and letting me do my thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Colleagues, anybody have anything to say? I do know that we did talk briefly about this reappointment being for a year, and then going forward, once we elect new officers next year, it'll be for 2-year terms. Everybody was kind of in agreement with that, right? Other than that, man, we've had a good year, and ran into some operators downstairs, and they were appreciative. So they asked what we have in board meeting. I said yes, and one of the ladies was like, "Thank you for all that you guys are doing," and I shouted out our staff, and I feel like we have a great team, and I'm looking forward to what the next year. We've really done some really incredible things in the last year. Hopefully next year will be as exciting. So no other comments, meeting adjourned.